How you identify limits your capacity to perform. It filters the world through the parameters you give it. It is the first signal. It is a signal from your brain that your current mindset is outdated. So like I was saying, the point of this webinar is, and the point of these future webinars that I'm going to be doing is to basically just show you, in my opinion, what's real trading psychology. We're going to be doing a lot of work in the future on actual exercises that we can do. So we're going to be doing them in live time. Yes, so I will actually give the Zoom. If you copy the Zoom link where I sent it in, that should be fine. I'm not too sure. I'll just send into the chat there so you can copy away. But like I was saying, we're going to be doing a lot of work in the future with you, basically where I'm going to be getting you to do different psychological exercises, the same exercises that I would have done when I was, kind of coming up my journey. And to be honest, some I still carry through to this very day. The work on psychology never stops, and that's one thing you'll begin to understand the more you go into your journey, and the more you kind of the more trading experience you get, you'll realize that psychology is definitely one of the core foundations of any experienced trader or any professional trader, consistent trader, etc. But the one problem I have with psychology, and a lot of people know me originally with the Conquer page for being obsessed with the psychological stuff. But the one thing I do not like, and we're going to get into the webinar now because I need to say this because we will be talking so much about psychology in the future, is I do not like when people blame a lack of edge for a psychological problem. And we're going to be doing an amazing webinar on this. I actually have like a whole program building at the moment to actually show people what this actually means. What does it look like? How can you even know that you've an edge problem and not a psychological problem? Because I see this all the time. I see on Twitter, on Instagram, anywhere really, any sort of, even Reddit or trading forum, people are saying they have these psychological issues with patience and things like this. And there's all these books and they're saying things about patience, but if you do your research on patience, actually like study the brain when it comes to patience and things like this, you'll realize like a lot of the stuff that people are telling you is just really, it's really bullshit. Yes, okay, there's an element of actual patience where we have to just be able to wait, but waiting becomes a lot easier when you have real clarity behind what you're looking for. And then, we can go down a rabbit hole into that, and that's not what we're here to do today. I'm actually putting a fun spin on our first proper webinar, I suppose. I'm going to call this our first proper webinar moving forward. And we're doing kind of a fun spin of this, basically talking about, can you manifest becoming a 7-figure trader? Okay, so, we often hear people saying that, I want to, manifest X, Y, and Z, okay? And basically, I want to talk about the science behind that today. Is it even true? Is there anything actual science, like science-wise, that will back up manifestation? And we're going to talk about, if there is, are there any exercises that maybe we can shift the odds a little bit in our favor using some sort of science or universal law? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this webinar. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to first of all explain here what you can expect from this webinar, for being here today. And I do want to thank everyone for being here. We've about, we don't really have that many people in here at the moment, but I guarantee you that you realistically will take something away here today. And I will be giving you exercises. I'll be showing you the real science behind these things. So I know personally, if you can just stay until the end, when I was first taught this, when someone brought this to my attention, it changed everything for me. It really did change everything for me. And I'm not going to give you some sort of manifestation, universal law bullshit. I'm going to give you real science-based facts here on how the most important engine in the world works. Okay, so what to expect from this webinar? We're going to be talking about a blueprint to becoming who you really want to become. We're going to be talking, and including some science-based facts around manifestation, thoughts, and actions. That's what this webinar is about. Can you manifest to become a 7-figure trader? Because interestingly enough, if I check the stats here, okay, if I check the stats from Instagram today, I put up a poll, and on Instagram, 65% of people said that they could manifest becoming a seven-figure trader. And this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Can you or can you not? Also going to include some solid memes, and I actually have plural there, but I actually mean meme. I have one meme included, and we're going to do a quick Q&A around anything psychological related that you're having problems with at the end of this as well. So let's just jump straight into it. So look, we're not going to be too long in this webinar. I'm thinking it's probably going to be anywhere from 30 minutes to 40 minutes. It could go on longer. But realistically, unless you're living under a rock, you've probably seen this book in front of you, The Secret. Although their intentions are good, in my opinion, I think that some of it is kind of bullshit. I think they're taking something that, yes, okay, there's maybe possible signs to back up parts of what they're saying, but I do believe The Secret itself is a little bit far-fetched. The whole idea that you can just sit back, do nothing, well, not essentially do nothing, but just sit back and say to yourself, I'm going to become a seven-figure trader, and keep telling yourself this, and the kind of foolishness to believe that someday then you'll just somehow become a seven-figure trader. Or there are people out there that literally believe that if they think and fully convince themselves they will become a billionaire, that they will become a billionaire without any sort of foundation, skills, knowledge. To me, that doesn't make sense. And the problem I have with this is that you don't take any responsibility. Okay. The problem with all of this manifestation, law of attraction, all of this stuff, nobody takes responsibility because everything is in the hands of the universe. I'm putting my face in the universe. I failed a challenge account today. I blew another account. Maybe today just wasn't my day. Maybe I didn't manifest it hard enough. Come on, that's all bullshit. We know it's bullshit. And deep down, I think people in their guts know it's bullshit. I'm not saying that there isn't some sort of universal energy out there. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that completely sitting there foolishly, thinking that because this book told you so, The Secret, that you can sit there, think about something and manifest it into existence, it has completely ruined people's expectations. This is the problem. It has completely ruined people's expectations, much like the trading industry today. Okay, very similar to trading industry today. There's bullshit online. People's expectations are gone absolutely, out of this world. And then people wonder why they don't get anywhere. So I want to make sure that your expectations are in line with reality. I'm going to teach you the stuff that I was taught by my mentors, and basically how this pretty much changed my life. And I think that if you're actually able to understand the science behind this, I do think your point of view about everything will change. So, like I said, reason why I don't believe in The Secret and all of that is because I don't think people are taking responsibility. And at the end of the day, if you look at any high performer, if you look at any millionaire, if you look at any seven-figure trader, eight-figure trader, they all take responsibility. They all take action. They do it on the right things. Now, I want to tell you a little something here, and we're actually flying through this webinar, so it actually could be a quick one today, but I'm going to teach you a little bit about the brain, okay? And we're going to talk about a small little part in the brain here, a bunch of nerves, okay, that are basically sitting in your brain stem, called RAS. I believe that's the pronunciation. I could have butchered that, but really the way I know it is the reticular activating system. Some of you may have heard of this before, others may not have. If I did pronounce the short version wrong, you can tell me in the comments, no problem. But the reticular activating system is how I know it. Now, I'm going to explain why this is important. And this is basically the science behind all of this. I believe in simplifying stuff. And I think that if we take complex subjects, take the 80% that really matters, and then actually understand that very, very well, you're going to get a lot further at a lot more things than trying to understand everything about a subject. It's the exact same way I read. If I'm reading something, I'm going to look through that book. I'm going to pick out the things I need in that very moment, because they're just the lessons I need. There's no point in me reading half a book about stuff that I already know. And I'm going to take those lessons, and then I've got the value from that book. I'm much better off doing that and then taking action with that information than wasting time reading information I already know, etc., etc. So, oh, I'm right. Okay, perfect. That is one of my students there. I know he's a medical student, so we got the pronunciation right. Okay, perfect. So the reticular activating system, okay, it's basically a bunch of nerves that sit in your brainstem, okay, regulates things like arousal, consciousness, motivation, okay. Now it has a very, very important function, okay, because it basically acts in the most simplest terms. It acts as a filter that sits between your brain and your senses, such as sight, hearing, touch, etc., etc., and filter what information gets through, okay? And the one thing you need to understand about this is that your brain is not processing everything around you. Imagine if your brain had to process all the senses, smells, information, even if you have wider screens. Imagine they had to process all of that information at once. Imagine a computer trying to process all that information at once. It would go on overload. It needs to just focus on one thing. And at any given time, there's only a certain amount of information that is actually useful to you. Okay, so if you're thinking about something, it's going to find that information that is useful to you there and then. It helps you, basically react to things like if someone's calling your name, that information is useful to you there and then you react. So when it comes to the actual role of the reticular activating system that I want to talk about today, it basically, the reticular activating system programs itself to work in your favor without you actively doing anything. And what I mean by this is it will seek information that validates your beliefs. So if we just take a step back here, okay, it is a bunch of nerves that sit in your brainstem, okay? It regulates arousal, consciousness, motivation, okay? It filters information. If you can understand that, you'll understand the rest. And I apologize if I go through this a bit quick. I realize that's very common when you kind of know what you're talking about, you rush through things, so I do apologize. But with the reticular activating system, it's basically trying to seek information that validates your beliefs. So the best way I can explain this is, and it's actually, if you've read the book, The One Thing, so I'm just going to write that in here in the comment section. I've read this book multiple times, Gary Keller. And he talks about the reticular activating system himself. Now, he talks about it specifically when it comes to generalization. So when we make a statement or generalize something. So what I mean by this is, for example, if you say trading is hard, your reticular activating system will activate and it will validate your belief. If you think trading is easy, your reticular activating system will validate your belief. It will seek the information you need to prove that you are right. It is always working in your favor. So you might see already where I'm going with this. It basically filters the world through the parameters you give it. Essentially, your beliefs shape these parameters. So now let's take a step back when it comes to manifestation. Is there some science here? Because a lot of the time when we look at manifestation, people will say that, you need to think it, you need to believe it, you need to visualize it and see it, etc. And people will also say that you need to update your subconscious, reboot your subconscious. You want to basically make these your subconscious programming think and believe you're rich, like the book Think and Grow Rich. Yes, I'm sure we've all heard of that. I'll write that in as well. You'll see some similarities here as well. I've read this book about 100 times. Okay, there's 2 books for you to go off and read. But the whole point here that I'm trying to actually show and prove to you guys is that there is science to actually back up that what they're saying might be true. They're just selling the information to you in a way that kind of seems a bit hokey pocus, okay? But anyway, like I was saying, the reticular activating system is filtering the world through the parameters you give it, and your beliefs shape these parameters. And essentially, if you believe you work efficiently, you most likely do, because if you truly believe it, your reticular activating system is going to go to work for you to prove that you're right. If you believe the world is against you, if you believe the world is an ugly, dark place, your reticular activating system will filter out anything you're seeing on a day-to-day basis on this phone to prove to you that you're right. It is working in your favor all the times, automatically, on autopilot. Okay, it is working in your favor. It thinks it's working in your favor, but the problem is, you know, when people say that your thoughts, they don't know if you're negative or positive thoughts, that's because your reticular activating system is just trying to prove to you whatever you're thinking. It's just trying to confirm and validate your beliefs and the parameters you've given it, or you gave it at that particular time. If you seek positivity, you will realistically see more positivity in the world. If you seek negativity, you will realistically see more negativity in the world. Not because of some hocus pocus, because the reticular activating system in your brain, that group of nerves in your brain, is activated at that particular time to go to work for you, to prove that you are right, to protect that precious ego of yours. So, does it seem so mystical now, this idea that think and believe? Because we can clearly see there is a specific part of our brain that will constantly seek for information to prove ourselves right. And your reticular activating system wants to help you be right. Like we hear all the time, it's uncomfortable for us human beings to be wrong. And we know that already. When we look at the charts, you know, we take a loss, we're basically, you know, we believe that, okay, now my self-worth is, you know, I'm worthless now, I'm a loser because I've lost a trade. And if you believe that, because you don't understand the real expectations of the game and your expectations aren't in line with reality, your reticular activating system will find as many ways as possible to prove that you are a loser. Oh, you went off your diet today? Yep, you're a loser. You went off your plan today? Yep, you're a loser. You did X, Y, and Z? Yep, you're a loser. I confirmed that for you. Okay? So we can use this to our advantage though. Okay, we can use the reticular activating system to our advantage. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to understand our brain. Just like a mechanic understands a car, I want to understand what's driving me on a day-to-day basis. If I can understand what drives me, what's working, which part, why are my thoughts even so important? Why do they even say that? If I know how to do that, I can start manipulating my brain into doing exactly what I want. Just like I say in trading, if you don't know the odds, you don't know the game, right? You have to understand. And the thing you also have to realize is that when we look at the reticular activating system itself, a lot of the time we fall into these negative behavioral patterns, such as trading, like saying things like trading is hard, or I don't know if I'm ever going to make this, or something as simple as the thing I was saying, that you're measuring your self-worth off any loss that you take on a given day. That is because your expectations are not in line with reality. And that's why it is so important on a day-to-day basis to understand the expectations of the game you're playing. That 1 to 5% a month on a consistent basis is amazing. Absolutely amazing. 6% a month compounding to 100% annual return, absolutely amazing. When the annual return of a hedge fund is about 20%, but then we have on Instagram all of these traders saying that they're making 30, 40% a month. All you have to do is do the numbers on a simple compounding calculator, and you'll see how much that is bullshit. And just like this here, just like this book here, it is not lining people's expectations up with the real world. It is taking part of it and kind of manipulating it a bit so they can put their own spin on it to make money, just like ICT does with his own trading strategies. But the problem with this is no one's expectations will ever be in line with the real world. So if you care, like things like about being positive, and I mean truly, like you actually believe it in your soul that you care about positivity, your reticular activating system will seek positivity. It's not magic. All of this kind of woohoo manifestation thing, it's not magic. It's just your reticular activating system. Now, this is just one part of the brain that we're talking about this evening. It's not magic. It's just your reticular activating system. So this is the most important part. How do we fix our beliefs to make our reticular activating system to do the hard work for us? Okay. Now, this is basically a blueprint that I want to talk about here. And this was a blueprint that I was given by my mentor. Literally, I found in a recent journal of mine. I have it here. If I just get it up here now. I have it here, okay? And this is when I was preparing for this webinar. I basically threw everything together that I could remember, and then I wrote down these key things that he taught me. Because here, once you understand the reticular activating system, once you understand that thoughts do lead action, that your thoughts matter, that there is an element of science behind this hocus pocus stuff, now it's about, okay, how can we make that go to work for our advantage? So when people say visualize things, visualization, all of this kind of shit that we see online, you need to do breath work and visualize and vision boards, etc., etc. Essentially, that on its own is bullshit. If anyone knows Trader Dante here, I recommend you to go into his YouTube channel, go listen to his stories of a prop trader. And he says in a few stories there's one particular story where he's talking about this one trader who essentially had this massive vision board on his trading desk of all these big houses, these Lamborghinis and girls and women and everything else. And he was one of the worst traders on the floor when the other guys were telling him, that's bullshit, you know, shut the fuck up, basically, these numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. You know, your hocus pocus manifestation is not going to work. And essentially he didn't survive, and he actually did end up leaving the firm. Okay, so having just a vision is not enough. Taking real action and lining your actual beliefs with real expectations in line with the real world, that's what works. So how do we fix our beliefs to make our reticular activating system do the hard work? We need to, first of all, create a vision overall with these characters. So we need to make it very specific. We then need to fix your identity. Your identity is the most crucial part about this. It should pretty much be number one. These are in no particular order, but your identity is the most crucial part here. And in a moment, if you get a piece of paper now, all right, so I'm telling you now to get a piece of paper because you're going to do an exercise here in the next few minutes. And I'm going to give you some of the parts that I would have written down through my journal here. But your identity is so crucial because this is essentially what holds all your beliefs and expectations about, say, the trading industry. Because the topic here is, can you manifest to become a seven-figure trader? And if you think that, for example, I had a student only a few months ago saying to me that they just can't seem to fall out of this belief that they need to trade every day. They're always expecting that they're going to take a trade on a day-to-day basis. And the problem was that their identity, or so they believed, the identity of a trader was someone who trades every day. Their expectations and beliefs were not in line with the real world. They believe that traders take trades every day, when in reality, traders just make good decisions when it's time to make good decisions. And that's the real world. And that's the gap between where you are now and where you need to be. Okay. And this is why making sure your expectations and your identity is in line with the real world. Because once you understand true expectations and once you understand the real path to get there, it's a lot easier to get there because you know the real path, you know what to expect. And there's traders out there now who are consistently making 5% a month thinking they're shit. When if they went to any investor at all, there would be money thrown at their feet. And this is the thing that blows my mind. So fix your identity, fix your expectations. Then we need to look at your values and beliefs that will essentially fall into your identity itself. Let me just take some water here. So like I was saying, we need to look into your values and beliefs. And then we start kind of breaking down this identity, okay? So, you know, what sort of skills does a seven-figure trader have? Now, I know this sounds kind of pretty simple and obvious, but no one thinks about this. Nobody. Essentially, you think, oh, they manage risk and, you know, they take trades and they journal and blah, blah, blah. That is far too broad and not specific enough at all, because you can't make plans based off 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 12 months, to a month, to a week, to a day, to an hour. That is essentially how you will structure your goals of where you need to be. If you need to be somewhere in 5 years, you're going to use this process here. You're going to have your main goal in 5 years. I want to be a 7-figure trader. I want to work in this firm. I want to do X, Y, and Z. Broader goal. What do you need to do in 2 years' time to get you a step closer? What you need to do in a year's time? What do you need to do in 6 months? What you need to do in 3 months? What you need to do on a month-to-month basis? What you need to do on a weekly basis? What you need to do on a daily basis? Down to your everyday morning, lunch, evening routine. That is how specific you need to be. And then things become a lot easier, because now your broader goal is just stepping stones. And all you need to do is show up every day. Why? Because you've planned and your expectations are in line with the real world. So your skills, what skills does a 7-figure trader have? We're going to get into this in a minute. What behaviors do they have? How do they act when they lose a trade? How do they act when they maybe find a new pattern? How do they act on that? How do they behave during news? How do they behave on extreme winning days or extreme losing days? How do they behave when a trade is going against them? All these different life scenarios. This is where people say, like, you need to visualize things. You need to visualize yourself in that situation. Well, you need to actually visualize to understand, okay, well, how would that 7-figure trader react? You know, how would they react? And let me plan that out. And let me close the gap here on how I'm acting now and how I should be acting. And let's start making action now. Let's make an instant change. And I do believe you can make an instant change. If your expectations are in line and you understand that this will take time, and if you actually carry out this exercise, you're giving yourself a blueprint, a literal blueprint to life. Next is their environment. What would their environment look like? What would their family situation look like? What would their desk look like? How would they structure their charts? How would they structure their journaling? Who would be the people they would hang around with? If they're hanging around with other 7-figure traders, how can you get yourself in more rooms with 7-figure traders? You all have access to the internet. You have access to LinkedIn. What is stopping you from searching the keyword Forex trader, asset manager, risk manager, and contacting as many people as you possibly can to hear their story? Because people love talking about themselves. Get your 2 cents from them on how they got to where they need to be and see what fits you. The only problem is that people don't want to do that. That's literally how I got my first mentor. It's literally how I got my first mentor. And then once we understand your vision, your identity, your values, beliefs, skills, behaviors, and environment that you need to build and create in order to become the person you want to be, every single day is about working on closing the gap between where you are now and where you need to be. So I used to react to losses. Now my expectations are in line and I know they're part of the game. A loss is just an expense of playing the game. Now, is this making sense to everyone? You know, I'll just hear in the chat here for a second. I'm just going to take a drink. Is this making sense to everyone? I believe in simplifying stuff and structuring things. Okay, so perfect. Right, great. So let's get into this now. What I need you to realize, and we're coming to the end of this webinar now in a second. What I need you to realize is that you have 70,000 thoughts a day on average. 70,000 thoughts a day on average, okay? The problem with this, now that you understand the reticular activating system, that it is constantly working in your favor to prove that you are right. If you believe that you are a person who works efficiently, it will search for information to prove that you are right. If you look for positivity, it will seek information to search for positivity in the world. It is programmed to confirm that you're right. It is programmed to search for the parameters that you have given it. So, like I said, does manifestation seem like such a hocus pocus thing now when there's actual real science to back up this kind of part that they put a spin on, I suppose, to make a bit of money from? Because now that you understand the reticular activating system, you now understand why this number here holds so much weight. 70,000 thoughts every single day. And those thoughts, 90% of the time, are the same as yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. And where you are currently today is because of the thoughts, actions, and parameters that you've given your reticular activating system 5 years ago. Okay? And now you need to ask yourself, right, my habits, routines, my thought processes, my beliefs, my skills, and my current view of the world has all gotten me to this very point in my life right now. And if you're going through periods of self-sabotage, things where you just keep fucking up, where you keep doing the same mistakes, and literally, let's just summarize it, self-sabotage, it is the first signal. It is a signal from your brain that your current mindset is outdated. It has got you to this point. It has got you on your feet to navigate through the world on a day-to-day basis. But to level up, you need to level up your software. And you need to make sure that this reticular activating system is doing the easy work for you. Because this is when, in manifestation, people say that, we always hear those stories when people manifest and they say, things just seem to come so easy to me. Doors just opened up, etc., etc. You'll see this in the book, Think and Grow Rich. He'll always say that, when you start to manifest and believe with real desire, etc., etc., doors just seem to open up for me. An element of that may be true, but that's 90% of the time because your expectations and what you were searching for was in line with the real world. It was your reticular activating system seeking that information. And if your beliefs were somewhere else, this is the terrifying thing. If your beliefs weren't in line with where you want to be, there is a very, very high fact here that your reticular activating system wouldn't have spotted that opportunity or wouldn't have spotted that door that was opening up for you because you weren't seeking it in the first place. Because all your reticular activating system wants to do is prove that you're right. It wants to seek and validate the parameters that you give it on a day-to-day basis. And I'm going to keep saying that because once I understood this small little group of nerves in the middle of my brain and the purpose it had and the amount of waste it had to basically navigating through my day-to-day life, you become very, very careful about what you're programming up here, what you're taking in on a day-to-day basis, and whose opinions you're taking in. So 70,000 thoughts a day. Now you understand why this number is so important, because thoughts lead action. And if you're having the same thoughts for the last 5 years, you're always going to take the same amount of action. If you're always taking the same amount of action, you're never going to make any progress. So we need to fix those beliefs. We need to fix your identity, skills, etc. And this is the part that I want to talk about here. How you identify. So when people say your subconscious mind, okay, we always see with a big manifestation and things like this that people are saying it's a subconscious mind that is, on autopilot. And that's true. On a day-to-day basis, I believe the stats are, and I could be wrong here, but I believe it's like 90% of the time our subconscious mind is actually, in charge of our day-to-day. Like we're not even, like if I said to you now, okay, maybe even set an alarm on your phone now, okay? Set an alarm on your phone in a moment for the next hour, okay, when this webinar is finished. And the whole point of that alarm is I want you to be conscious of, were you even aware of what you were doing within that minute? Because 90% of the time we're working on autopilot. And if you think about it, people will say even to be more present. And you actually do need to be more present because that's when we're going to take more conscious control of what we're programming up here, okay? So how you identify limits your capacity to perform. Identify as someone who is poor. Your reticular activating system will go to work to prove that you are right. It will, once again, for everyone that's seen this, it filters the world through the parameters you give it. And your beliefs about yourself and the world shape these parameters. So in a way, you could potentially say that what they're saying does hold weight because there's science there to back it up. Can you just manifest to become a 7-figure trader? Of course you can't. That is complete bullshit. But if you believe you're a loser, if you believe that you're someone who's not worthy enough of it, your reticular activating system will most certainly do its job and prove that you are right. Okay? So, like I said, how you identify limits your capacity to perform. If you believe you're not worthy, you will prove that you're not worthy. If you believe that you can never achieve those results of 3 to 5%, don't even bother because your reticular activating system will prove you right. It will go to work for you. So you need to know who you want to become in detail. And this is how we're going to do it. So for everyone that did get a piece of paper, I'm going to give you just a minute or so there to get a sheet of paper here now, because you need to take this down. The whole webinar that you've learned right now, this is the blueprint here that I'm about to give you. So I'm going to give people just 1 minute now. I hope everyone understands so far. You can leave a comment in the chat. Is everyone enjoying this webinar so far? This is kind of something a little bit different to what we'll be doing in the future. You know, in the future, we will be talking more about the things directly. Came for the memes, stay for the quality, love it. In the future, we'll be talking more about the stuff that you know really want to hear coming into trading, about like greed and patience and stuff like that. But I'm going to show you once again, I'm going to take those beliefs that you have, I'm going to break them, and then I'm going to build you back up again with the correct beliefs. And that's going to be the point of these webinars from now on. I don't have as much time as I used to. I'm getting busier and busier, thank the Lord. And this is my way of giving back, because I can't post as much content and quality content as much as I usually want to, but I can devote an hour or two a week and do these webinars for those who want to show up. So I'm just going to give people, so I guess everyone has a sheet of paper now. Okay, so like I was saying, how you identify limits your capacity to perform. So if your reticular activating system is always going to work for you and is always trying to prove you right, wouldn't it be smart to manipulate it in a way that the fact that it is working on autopilot, wouldn't it be smart to manipulate it in a way so it is just always on autopilot, proving exactly who you think you are? So who you think you are now may not be very big, okay? It may not be very impressive. It may not be who you actually want to become in the future. But this is the science-based part where people will say, you need to believe you are the person who you want to become, etc., okay? And, you know, they will say, you know, if you believe who you are now, all you need to start doing is acting in that way, and then you will become it, okay? That's, in a way, is the kind of bullshit that I don't like. I like looking at the real science-based facts of what's going on. So, like we said back here, we need to create a vision. We need to fix your identity, values, beliefs, skills, behavior, and environment. So these are the questions that I want you to ask yourself. First of all, I want you to write this question down, because this isn't here, okay? I'm going to write it into the chat. What are you doing right now? So this is the first thing that we're just going to ask, a basic question, and then we're going to start with the really important stuff. But this question alone will open up a lot of things for you. What are you doing right now that you know What are you doing right now that you know you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it anyway? Right? I want you to just answer that simple question. Now you can break that down first of all, okay? These are just opening questions, all right? We're going to get into the real stuff. And like I said, for those who stayed, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I put in my journal. So when my mentor gave me this blueprint himself, I'm going to talk about what I put in my journal, okay? So if you stay around for that, I promise you, you know, it will be worth your time, money, okay? So, well, not money. But what are you doing right now that you know you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it anyway? You're not journaling. You don't give a shit about risk, okay? You're not treating this like a business. You're taking sloppy trades. You've got poor education. You never got a mentor, so your expectations never be in line. So you're never actually really going to be able to take the right path in that journey, etc., etc. What are you doing right now that you know you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it anyway? That can be in trading, that can be in fitness, that can be in your relationships, family, even for yourself. You're just your day-to-day well-being. And then, you know, what are the things? Here's a lot, and then we'll go into the other part now that you're all waiting for. What are the things you know you should be doing, but you don't do them anyway? We all have them. And once again, that kind of falls into, you know, the not journaling, etc., etc. They're similar in a way, but they're not, okay? So you can ask yourself them questions. Now, the part that everyone's been waiting for, okay? So who is the individual you want to become? So I want you to imagine that, okay, you are this 7-figure trader. This is the visualization part. So we basically want to create a simple blueprint that you can act on a day-to-day basis so your reticular activating system can go to work. So first of all, what skills does that person have? So we're going to talk as if they're a 7-figure trader, all right? This is just a literal blueprint. What skills do they have that you do not have right now? So one of the questions I ask my mentors, okay, every single mentor I've had, doesn't matter if it was in marketing or trading or whatever it was, I always ask them the simple question. First of all, what are 3 skills that you currently have that I don't have that I need to get where you are now? Okay. And the simple reason I asked that was because the only reason why I want them as a mentor is because I want to be in their current situation someday. They're ahead of me. I'm just playing catch up. So what skills does that person have? You can figure out by asking your current mentor, maybe just make sure that they actually are legit. Please just use your head. And you know, the basic skills, like if you just look at basic skills in general, a lot of the time you will write down stuff, and be careful of this. A lot of the time when you write down these beliefs now, you're still writing these beliefs from your current thought processes, expectations, you know, beliefs of the world, etc. So you might write things down or choose to not write something down because it is challenging, such as a simple skill that a 7-figure trader has. They're able to digest macroeconomics and fundamental drivers. I guarantee 90% of you will go, oh, fuck's sake, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I expected. That's not what the skills I taught. But it is. It's literally the game you're playing. If you don't know the game, if you don't know the odds, you don't know the game. And then to increase those odds, you need to know how the game works. So simple skills like macroeconomics, data collecting, working with data and digesting data, risk management, understanding risk, the skill of understanding when to bet big and when to bet smaller. All of the skills on a day-to-day basis, okay? What skills do they have? They're able to take large amounts of information. They're able to use logical and critical thinking to digest that information, macro and fundamental drivers, and then formulate that into better informed trading decisions. That is a skill. That is a skill that a lot of people do not have. Same with data collecting. They're able to take an idea, a hypothesis. They are willing and they have the courage to go and test these ideas, no matter if it's wrong or right. And they will go and test those ideas to prove to themselves that they are right. That is a skill, working with data, and they're able to use the data to make better informed trading decisions. Risk management. They understand risk. They know when to bet large. They know when to bet small. They know when to cut their losses short. And they know to never to bet the house in a single trade. That is a skill. Okay, etc., etc., etc. What is their environment like? There's not a single trader that I personally know that does not have a clean desk. Their desk might be dirty, okay? The reality is that, yeah, okay, look, shit gets messy. You're going to have a few cups of coffee here, a few glasses of water here, maybe your cereal from the morning as you just rolled out of bed for London session. Look, things get messy, but majority of the time, you know, I do believe that, you know, your environment reflects what's going on in here. If your environment's messy, realistically, this is messy. This is not organized. This is not clear, etc., etc. Who, you know, in their environment as well, like who are they hanging around with? People who fucking motivate them, people who vibrate off their frequency, people who talk about money. If you want money, you want to hang around people who talk about money. It's the same thing with traders. If you want to become a 7-figure trader, how can you get in the room or on a call or talk to or friend as many people in that space as much as possible? Just like I said, LinkedIn is there. You have the internet, you have Instagram, you have Twitter. Realistically, on Twitter, you will probably find a lot more people that you're looking for compared to Instagram. Twitter is a great place to search, in my opinion, once you find those people who are, you know, obviously setting the correct expectations. Then, you know, what behaviors do they hold? In my opinion, you know, things like I've written down here, you know, stoic. They're very, very stoic. I would say study stoicism, like, you know, where essentially just the simple understanding that you only pay attention to the things that you can control. I can only, at the end of the day, once I understand my numbers, once I understand, this is why I work with statistical edges. This is why all of my students work with statistical edges, because at the end of the day, it puts me in such a great frame of mind to be able to just focus on the one thing or two things really that I need to do. Execute and manage risk. They're the only things that I need to focus on, because after that, I know the power and what I'm betting on is in the statistical edge that I've proven over the last 3 to 5 years. So when everyone else is betting the house or even still managing their risk, but using intuition to their advantage, or so they think so, they're actually making it extremely more complicated, because now their willpower and their thinking power is completely spread thin. So I went off on a little tangent there actually about statistics and everything else. But my whole point there is I understand that, okay, the person I want to become is extremely stoic. So what sort of behaviors do they have, and how can I bring that into my everyday life? I brought that into my everyday life by limiting the amount of decisions that I have to make, by seriously only doubling down and focusing on what I can control. So that means that every decision I make is completely I'm completely responsible. I am completely in control of it, etc., etc. So they are some of the beliefs, like things like this, beliefs they hold as well. They believe in discipline. They believe in a disciplined life. If you have a chaotic lifestyle outside the charts, realistically, your equity curve is going to look like a fucking roller coaster. Okay. And that is the reality of it. You can't go out on the weekend and just drink all the time. You can't roll yourself out of bed out of an hour's sleep and expect yourself to perform when the science literally says that you will not perform. Okay, you don't need to believe me. Everything I'm talking about here is from research papers. Okay, it's from research papers. I'm not pulling this out of my ass or taking from a book or something like that. I don't really believe in that. I need to go and search and validate these things for myself with real research papers, etc. Real science. So then the next thing, what beliefs do they follow? Simple things of they believe in following their plan, and they believe that deviating from that plan is completely ludicrous behavior. Okay. They believe that, yes, the wins and there's a complete random distribution between wins and losses, that every time I place a trade, I do not know if it's going to be a win or a loss. And as long as I accept that this is realistically going to be a loss, when the win or loss, it doesn't matter then, because I expected to lose anyway. If I win, oh, great, I'm on the up. That's all. Like at the end of the day, they're their beliefs. They believe in managing risks, and basically maybe they might even deviate depending on what trader you want to become. They might believe that in taking partials, etc., etc. They believe in sticking to following the plan. So the reason why I put those two questions in there. What are you doing right now that you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it anyway? Things like you should be following the plan, but you don't do it anyway. This is the part where the behaviors of them, the disciplined stoic mentality. What you can do in a market that is driven by uncertainty, the one thing that you can do is you can control yourself following the plan. If you can't do that, you're making this business so much harder for yourself than it has to be. Okay. And then, you can run into different exercises as well. So, there's pages and pages here of literally of me studying who I need to be. Like literally, I mean, I think I have more journals here. 1 second.